I told my sister I wouldn't attend her wedding if she invited my ex, and now the whole family is angry at me. My sister and I have always had a close relationship, but what she's doing now has completely shattered that bond. The situation has left me feeling utterly betrayed, and I don't know how to handle the emotional turmoil. To give you some context, my ex and I were together for 5 years. The relationship ended in a painfully messy way. He cheated on me with one of my coworkers, and that betrayal completely destroyed me. I felt like my world was ripped apart, and I was left picking up the pieces of my broken heart. It was an incredibly painful time, and my sister was one of the few people who truly understood the extent of my devastation. She knew every detail of the hurt I went through, and she was there for me when I needed someone to lean on. But now, knowing everything she does, she's completely disregarded my feelings. She's getting married soon, and despite knowing what happened between my ex and me, she has invited him to her wedding. She justified it by saying that he's been a family friend for so long, but that doesn't change the fact that he destroyed me. I understand that he may have been close to our family before, but his actions shouldn't erase the emotional damage he caused me. I was shocked and hurt when I first found out. I had to tell her, in no uncertain terms, that I couldn't be in the same room as him. I asked her to reconsider, explained how it was going to hurt me, to be forced into a situation where I had to pretend everything was fine when in reality it isn't. I poured my heart out to her, telling her that having him there would make it impossible for me to attend her wedding without feeling emotionally overwhelmed. I thought she would understand. After all, she knows exactly what he put me through, but to my dismay, she insisted on inviting him anyway. She told me, "It's my day and I want everyone I care about there." That stung. It felt like she was dismissing everything I had gone through just to please someone who had hurt me so deeply. I tried to make it clear to her how much this situation was affecting me. I told her, "If you really care about me, you wouldn't put me in this position. I can't just pretend that everything is fine." But she brushed it off. She told me that I just needed to get over it. That statement hurt more than I can put into words. I didn't expect her to completely erase what happened, but I did expect her to acknowledge my pain and respect the boundaries I was setting. Instead, it felt like my emotions didn't matter. It felt like I was being punished for standing up for myself and setting a boundary with someone who had hurt me deeply. I don't know how to process the fact that she doesn't seem to understand why this is so hard for me. How could she ask me to put aside my feelings just to accommodate her wedding day? I've had to stand my ground. I told her that I wouldn't attend the wedding if he was there, and it's been an incredibly difficult decision for me. But now, the fallout is becoming even more unbearable. Our parents have gotten involved, and they're telling me that I'm being selfish, that I'm ruining her wedding by making it about me. They don't seem to see that I'm just trying to protect myself from emotional harm. Even her fiancé called me to tell me to let it go for one day. It's been so frustrating to feel like no one is respecting my feelings or the boundaries I've set to take care of myself. I understand that weddings are important and that she wants her day to be perfect, but I feel like my emotional well-being is being disregarded in the process. I feel like I'm being forced to choose between my sister and my own mental health. I don't want to be the cause of drama, but it feels like no one is hearing me. No one is considering what this is doing to me. It's like my emotions are being invalidated, and I'm being told that I should just swallow my feelings and pretend everything is fine for the sake of others. I've spent so much time questioning whether I'm overreacting. I've tried to understand her perspective. After all, it's her big day and I want to support her, but it's hard when I feel like she's asking me to sacrifice my own healing for her happiness. Is it really too much for me to ask for the same respect and understanding that I've always given her? Am I overreacting, or am I simply standing up for myself in a situation that feels incredibly hurtful and unfair? At this point, I just don't know where to go from here. It feels like my family is prioritizing her wedding over my emotional well-being, and I'm left wondering whether my sister values me enough to understand why this is such a painful situation for me. My heart is torn in so many directions, and I'm exhausted from trying to navigate this in a way that doesn't seem to hurt anyone else, but it's getting harder and harder to just let it go. Update 1. Honestly, what is going on with people these days? Is it really possible that there are so many families out there who can be so awful and inconsiderate? I'm shocked and appalled by the stories I read about families where everyone sides with one person, even when that person is being completely unreasonable, while they bully the one family member who's simply trying to stand up for themselves. I can't believe what I just read about a woman who walked in on her husband and her sister in bed together less than 6 months ago, and now her mother is taking the sister's side, telling her to forgive her and act like it never happened. It's beyond comprehension. And now, I'm reading your post, and I have to say, I'm floored. OP, I'm really sorry to be the one to tell you this, But you and your sister are not as close as you think you are. If you truly had that tight, unbreakable bond, she would never have even considered inviting your ex, especially after everything he put you through. You said he cheated on you and broke your heart, and yet she insists on having him at her wedding. That right there is a red flag. She's actively choosing him over your feelings, and when she told you she wanted him there because she considers him family, that should tell you something very important about where you stand in her life. What does she really consider you then? Clearly, you aren't important enough for her to protect your heart from further damage. She's willing to bring him into the most important day of her life, despite the fact that his actions shattered you. This shows just how much regard she has for your emotional well-being, and sadly, it's not much. If you were truly as close as she claims, she would never have put you in such a difficult position. But instead, she brushed off your feelings, dismissed your hurt, and pressured you to be okay with something that feels like a direct slap in the face. Let me tell you this. What you're doing is not selfish. You are not ruining her wedding. You are not making everything about you, and you are absolutely not responsible for sacrificing your mental health and emotional safety just to ensure that your sister has her perfect day. Anyone telling you that you should disregard your own boundaries, that you should just swallow your feelings, and that you need to pretend everything is fine for the sake of her big day clearly does not have your best interests at heart. These people don't respect you, they don't understand the pain that has been inflicted on you, nor do they seem to care how this situation is affecting your ability to heal. They just want you to put everything aside for their convenience, and that is completely unfair. I'm sorry that the people who should have your back, especially your family, are the ones making you feel like you're the one in the wrong. You need to protect yourself, and you need to do what's right for your emotional well-being. I think you should seriously consider making plans for the day of the wedding. Don't be there. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to endure an event that will only cause you more pain. If you can, go away for the weekend with a close friend, someone who understands and supports you. Take a step back and give yourself the space to heal. Your sister will have to come to terms with the fact that she is the one who is making this situation difficult. If she truly values you, if you're important to her like she claims, she will make things right. But if she doesn't, if she refuses to respect your boundaries and continues to put her wedding before your feelings, that's something you'll have to come to terms with. It's heartbreaking to realize, but sometimes people show us who they really are, and it's not always who we hoped they would be. I truly hope she steps up and makes it right. I hope she sees the hurt she's causing and does something to fix it. But until then, please take care of yourself. You deserve peace, and you deserve to heal without feeling pressured to sacrifice your emotional health for others' comfort. Update 2. Honestly, you don't need to explain anything to us. The responsibility for this entire situation lies solely with your sister, and she's the one who created this mess. The rest of your family that's backing her up, they're not showing any regard for your feelings, and it's painfully clear. It's always one of the hardest realizations when the people we love, the ones we rely on the most, turn out to be the ones who don't value us in the way we expect. And I'm truly sorry that your family has treated you this way, showing you just how little they care about your emotions. It's beyond disappointing when you've given so much to those you care about, only to be dismissed or ignored when it's your time to be heard. The fact that they're backing your sister and completely disregarding the trauma she's pushing onto you speaks volumes about their lack of empathy. This is not a reflection of you or how you deserve to be treated. This is about their lack of care for your emotional well-being. It hurts, it's unjust, and frankly, it's infuriating. And you know what? You don't have to go. I know this will probably make everyone angry, but honestly, that's exactly what they want. You to sacrifice your peace and your emotional stability just to make them happy. They want you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm, and that's not just unreasonable, it's downright cruel. You are not responsible for their happiness at the expense of your own mental health. Don't let them convince you that it's somehow your duty to be the one who suffers in silence so that they don't have to deal with any discomfort. You absolutely do not have to tolerate that kind of treatment from your family. Sometimes we get so deep into the patterns of our family dynamics that we start to believe their behavior is normal. But what they're doing, this isn't normal. It's cruel, inconsiderate, and it completely ignores any of your feelings, which are clearly not even on their radar. It's hard to see this when you're in the middle of it, but you're being treated with a level of disregard that you don't deserve. The fact that your sister doesn't care about how you feel and that your family is pressuring you to move on and let it slide is a wake-up call. This isn't a healthy family dynamic, and their behavior needs to be called out for what it is: abusive, selfish, and totally unfair to you. I have 2 sisters myself, and there is no way in hell I would ever invite one of their exes to my wedding. no matter the history or how close we were as family friends. It's just common decency not to put someone in a situation where they're forced to interact with someone who hurt them. It's a simple boundary that should never have needed to be explained. But your sister, despite knowing everything you went through, chose to prioritize your ex over your emotional well-being. The fact that he's been the source of so much hurt, and yet she still insists on inviting him, speaks volumes about how little she values your feelings. She's choosing to make him feel comfortable instead of you, and that should tell you everything you need to know about where you stand in her eyes. Why, in the name of decency, does your family care more about his comfort than yours? Why are they willing to throw your feelings aside to accommodate someone who has already done you so much harm? The fact that your sister is more concerned with having him at her wedding than ensuring you feel safe and valued speaks to a fundamental lack of understanding of what it means to be family. You are not an afterthought. You are not someone who should be discarded or dismissed when it's convenient for others. Do not let them manipulate you into going when they don't even care about how you feel. If your sister really wanted you there, it's simple. She wouldn't have invited your ex in the first place. The choice is hers, and by inviting him, she's made it clear that she doesn't care about you enough to respect your boundaries. That's all you need to know. Her actions have already spoken louder than any words, and it's time to listen to that. Your peace and your mental health are worth so much more than being present at an event where your well-being is not even being considered. Skip her wedding. You don't owe her anything. You owe it to yourself to prioritize your own emotional safety. Update 3. If you decide to go, you're going to need a lot of emotional strength. Think of it as a situation where you have to keep your composure no matter what. There can't be any emotional reactions no matter how much you feel like your heart is being torn apart in that room. You need to be detached, almost as if you're a spectator in your own life. It's easier to do that when you feel like an outsider to the whole event. In fact, if you start to feel too much, just remind yourself, how good is your do I know you face? The one that makes it clear that no, you do not know them and you certainly don't want to. I was in a very similar situation not too long ago. My brother invited my ex to an event and I could hardly believe it. My ex, the one who threw a knife at me simply for asking about a woman he was having an online affair with. That's the kind of person we're talking about, and there he was, sitting among people who should have known better. At that moment, I had to decide how to handle it. I knew I had to stay calm, keep it together, and not let him or anyone else see that his presence was affecting me in any way. When I arrived, I greeted my brother and the other guests. For everyone who wasn't dead to me, I gave hugs. For him, though, it was a completely different story. I approached him with a business-like handshake, as cold and indifferent as I could manage. I didn't even bother with a smile, just a firm grip that made it clear he wasn't worth my warmth. It didn't take long for him to start following me around, trying to make eye contact, clearly hoping to provoke some reaction from me, but I wasn't having it. I just stared straight ahead, ignoring him completely, as if he was invisible. I kept moving, not letting him occupy any more space in my mind or my day. Every time he tried to approach, I kept walking away, deliberately making sure he didn't have any influence over me. I acted as though he wasn't even there, and honestly, it was easier that way. Later at the reception, my sister-in-law, who didn't know the history with my ex, pulled me aside. She looked genuinely concerned and told me there was a guy who had been following me around, staring at me in a way that made her uncomfortable. I could tell she didn't know what to make of it, and I simply said to her, "I'll preface this by saying, you know how we all make bad decisions when we're 19? She looked at me, confused, and I casually explained that he was my ex. No further explanation needed. She was visibly shocked and told me it looks like I didn't even recognize him. That's when I grinned and said, "Oh good, my you're dead to me face is working perfectly then." It felt oddly empowering to know that I had been so cold and distant that no one, even someone who didn't know the situation, could tell we had a past. I could feel myself gaining strength with every minute that passed, even as the night went on. At one point, I overheard a couple of guests who knew both of us talking about how likely it was that I would push him into a fish pond. I didn't say anything, but in my head, I couldn't help but think that it was a tempting idea, but I didn't need to do anything. His very presence was enough to make my point. I've long stopped expecting my family to stand by me in situations like this. Over the years, I've realized that if I want to get through these moments with my dignity intact, I'm the one who has to have my own back. I did my duty, I showed up, I was polite, and I didn't let him see any weakness. When I felt like I'd given enough, I quietly left, just as other guests started to trickle out. I made my way to an event with a few friends before the last band went on. It was such a relief to get away from all that negativity and finally let my hair down. I ended the night surrounded by good company, people who cared about me, people who supported me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe again. The whole experience was a reminder to me that no matter how hard it is, I can always count on myself to get through these things. I don't need anyone else's validation, and I certainly don't need to sacrifice my peace just to make other people comfortable. What matters is how I feel, how I take care of myself, and how I choose to let others into my life. Update 4. This is not normal. This is not what a loving family does. Honestly, it sounds like you don't have the family you deserve. If they truly loved you, they would have respected your feelings and recognized the trauma that your ex has caused. But instead, they've chosen to align with your sister's decisions, even when they know how much pain this situation is causing you. This isn't love, it's a lack of understanding, empathy, and basic respect for you as a person. Here's what I suggest. Say nothing more to your sister about this. Don't try to explain, don't beg her to understand. Give the impression that you're giving in, without actually saying so. Let her think that you've agreed to be a part of the wedding for the sake of peace, but don't give her any satisfaction by engaging in a full conversation about it. Just keep your emotions and thoughts to yourself for now. Instead, take control of the situation in a way that protects your mental health. Book yourself a nice little getaway. Find a charming hotel or a quiet place to relax, somewhere far from the stress and negativity surrounding your family's drama. Leave a day before the wedding so you're not even in the vicinity. On the day of the wedding, switch your phone off. The last thing you want is to be bombarded with calls or messages from anyone in your family trying to convince you to change your mind. Before you leave, send a simple message to your sister, just saying, "Have a wonderful wedding," and leave it at that. Don't over-explain, don't get emotional, just send the message and go. Take this time for yourself, relax, go to a spa, get a massage, do whatever makes you feel at peace. Enjoy some quiet moments where you don't have to think about the stress they're creating. If your sister is going on a honeymoon right after the wedding, wait until she's gone before you return. It will give you the space to clear your mind and avoid any unnecessary confrontations. If your parents scold you or try to guilt trip you about your decision, calmly respond with something like, "I thought you cared for me. Clearly, I was wrong." Don't engage in a long argument or try to convince them to see things your way. Keep it short and firm. Let them know you see the situation clearly and you're no longer willing to sacrifice your emotional well-being just to keep up appearances. You'll be avoiding a major headache. Your ex will likely show up with someone else, maybe even the coworker he had an affair with, and he'll try to flaunt it in front of you. He might do something intentionally hurtful or embarrassing, and you'll be so glad you're not there to witness it. Trust me, dodging that bullet will be one of the best decisions you've made. When you see your sister again, or when she comes back from her honeymoon, gray rock her. Be as emotionally distant as possible. Don't engage in any unnecessary conversations, and don't let her manipulate you into discussing the situation again. You've made your point, and you don't owe her any more explanations. If she keeps pushing, block her and the family on your phone for a couple of weeks. You need space to breathe, and you need to protect yourself from their emotional manipulation. You've got this. You are in control of your own life and happiness, and it's time to prioritize yourself. You don't need to put up with people who don't have your best interests at heart. Take care of yourself first and foremost, and know that you made the right decision by stepping back from a situation that was never going to be healthy for you. Update 5. I absolutely hate it when people getting married start thinking that their wedding is the center of the universe. They seem to believe that just because it's their day, they can do whatever they want, and everyone else should just suck it up and go along with it. I get it, weddings are big deals and it's important to celebrate, but there's a point where the bride or groom needs to realize that they're not the only person involved. Sure, your sister can invite whoever she wants, but that doesn't automatically mean that OP has to attend. Just because she's the one getting married doesn't mean she gets to make all the rules, especially when it involves other people's emotional well-being. Let's talk about this ex for a moment. Why is she still in contact with him? I mean, he's the one who cheated on her sister. How is it even possible that after all of that, she feels comfortable enough to invite him to a major family event? I don't know if the sister is just ignoring what happened or if she genuinely doesn't care about the pain it caused, but inviting him to her wedding? That's a huge betrayal to OP, and it's completely unreasonable. At this point, the sister needs to understand that there's a simple choice to be made. Either she uninvites the ex or OP doesn't go. It's that simple. If the sister is determined to have him there, then she has to live with the consequences. She can't expect OP to just swallow their feelings and show up like everything is fine. It's as if the sister has forgotten what it's like to respect the boundaries and emotions of those closest to her. She made her choice to invite the ex, so now she's going to have to lie in the bed she made. This whole situation reeks of bridezilla behavior. The sister is acting like her wedding day is the only thing that matters and forcing everyone around her to accommodate her whims without any consideration for what they've been through. OP is under no obligation to be around someone who hurt them deeply, especially if that person is the ex who caused so much pain in the first place. The sister doesn't get to dictate how OP should feel or what they should tolerate just because it's her wedding. This isn't just about a wedding, it's about a basic lack of respect for OP's feelings. I can't help but wonder if there's something more going on here. Is the sister hoping to rekindle something between OP and the ex? Is that why she invited him and is pushing OP to accept it? It wouldn't be the first time someone tries to manipulate a situation to get what they want, even if it means disregarding the pain others are going through. Maybe she thinks if she brings him to the wedding, she'll somehow fix everything or make it easier for OP to forgive him. But that's not how healing works, and forcing someone into that situation isn't going to magically fix the past. It'll just make things worse. This is about boundaries. This is about respect. OP is under no obligation to forgive or forget just because it's the sister's wedding day. She needs to take responsibility for the situation she's created. And if that means uninviting her ex, then so be it. It's not about ruining her day, it's about protecting yourself and making sure you're not put in a position where you're forced to relive painful memories for the sake of someone else's convenience. If the sister doesn't understand that, then she's truly in the wrong, and OP needs to do what's best for themselves, regardless of the wedding drama.